Everyone, welcome back to 2 Hours on a Sunday. I'm Brian.
I'm Nick.
And today we are diving back to 1985.
Retro.
Retro.
Actual retro.
Actual retro. We're doing a cult classic today. The Goonies.
The Goonies.
It's back in the day when I was a kid. That's all we the Goonies. Like we had to emphasize the goon in it.
And that's funny because I remember you would reference this movie all the time. And I was just like, oh, yeah, I never watched it.
Yeah.
I think I watched it like maybe once when I was younger, but I only knew it because of you. And you always said, choke.
Choke. You know why I did? Because my first experience with this movie was grade school. I think about grade 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And Justin Abello, my neighbor next door, one of my best friends, he showed me this movie. And I think we watched it maybe 6 to 7 times in our friendship before he moved away to Alberta.
For sure.
But that was his thing. He was be like, the Goonies. Chunk. That's all we used to say is there'd be nothing that we'd mention about the movie. We would just walk around just yelling it to each other. The Goonies.
I remember that. I remember like seeing him across the street playing basketball and he'd like yell that at you.
Yeah.
That's so funny. But yeah, this was an enjoyable watch for I would say this is my true first time watching it because I remember it now.
This is a very heavy kids Indiana Jones.
100%. It's got the action, it's got the adventure, the pirates, the treasure, all of that kind of stuff. But it's just the main characters are kids.
Yeah. And it really emphasizes how kids can be drawn into something just like simple as a map and create this whole adventure. Mm-hmm. Like if we were playing on the playground, we make up a map, we draw it on a piece of paper, and we would play this out
exactly
as kids, you know.
100%. Yeah, it's a kid's ability to use their imagination and say, what if this is actually a real thing? It isn't just a story from town here. And what if this is going to be the thing that, saves them from leaving town, like one of the best friends?
Yeah.
Okay. I think the one thing that took me out of this movie, the only one thing, I'm just going to get it off my chest to get it out there. The dialogue was so, here, before I say it, it was so well done for kids in real life talking. I don't know if it translates to a movie clearly, because I honestly don't think I understood most of the dialogue in that whole movie.
But what's good about it is that it felt real.
It did, 100%.
It felt like they had a friendship.
Yes. I was almost like, I'm getting taken out of the movie because it feels too real. That's actually my first thought as soon as I heard like they were talking in the living room and like Chunk knocks over the statue.
The Michelangelo.
Yeah, it breaks it. And they're just yelling at each other. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so hectic. But it really encapsulates being a kid and just having so much energy and all of that.
Because I feel the script, as well as it was played out, I'm sure Steven Spielberg, who produced the movie and helped write it with Chris Columbus, Richard Donner was just here's a note for today. And just go act. Go be yourselves. There was some behind the scenes of the kids and they would run through a scene and Chunk was doing his thing and he was talking to Richard Donner and then Richard Donner's like, okay, now we're going to go. And Chunk's like, for real this time? And he's like, for real this time. And then he's like, okay, let's go. And they would just play out their stuff. But I have a hot take that kid actors in the 80s and 90s are way better than kids actors today.
Yes, 100%. Because I feel like because of the style of movies that they played in, they got to be kids. Mm-hmm. They weren't this super serious action hero nonsense. It was a kid being a kid, and they just happened to stumble into an adventure. Even Indian in the Cupboard, that movie was pretty stiff in terms of dialogue and trying to get the kids to do it, but it felt like the kids were being kids.
Right.
Even in what first comes to mind to me is like Spy Kids. Like those.
Listen, don't hate on Spy Kids.
So sorry.
Spy Kids is gold.
It to me, it feels like they had to be this like big cool thing to make it relevant to modern audiences. Modern audiences is in 24 years ago, but
yeah,
whatever. But yeah, kids back in the 80s, early 90s felt like they were kids playing those roles.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that makes a more compelling character.
I also think it had to do with the movies being made.
Oh yeah.
In the 80s and 90s. They felt, I don't know what the term, like they felt like a movie, but it felt like you were immersed in like a real thing.
Yes.
Yep. Like even the kids from Jurassic Park.
Oh, for sure.
Like everything felt like they were actually living it rather than acting it.
Yep. I think part of that is they were part of the world. They just didn't exist in it. They were thrown into the circumstances and they had to deal with it. It's not like everything was happening because they were there or because they're so above the laws of reality. They actually had to deal with the consequences of everything that was going on.
Right.
Well, like let's get into it. What when you watch this movie again, what was your, like when you watched it the most recent time, what was your initial thought? What was the first thing that came to mind when you watched it again?
So I've seen this movie probably 10 times as a kid.
Okay.
And every single one of the times it worked.
Yep.
And watching it the other day, I felt myself drifting a little bit in the middle.
Okay. Like when they were in the underground area?
Just the point of not getting to the cave, like when they got to the house.
Oh, yeah.
I think there was a point where I drifted just a little bit, but then I was immediately pulled back in when everything started getting crazy again.
Yeah.
Because the movie is an hour and 55 minutes, but I think they could have knocked off like 5 to 10.
I agree.
To make it a quicker, smoother runtime when they got to the Fratellis. Also, opening the movie with the Fratellis was, for a kid's movie, like going to the jail cell and he's like fake hanging himself.
That's right.
To break out of jail and the whole race. It's like you almost forget as a kid that's how the movie starts because you think it just starts at Mikey's house.
Right. Yeah, I thought that too. And that intro was a lot. They could have started at Mikey's house, cut away, and done the jail scene.
I don't think it would have played as well.
I don't think so either.
Because, I don't know, throughout the whole movie, for those of you who haven't seen it, Chunk is one of the main best friends. Mm-hmm. And during the intro, when the criminals escape and there's a high-speed chase, this town is so oblivious to police work in like actual events happening. Chunk is the only one who noticed the chase.
Yeah.
Which goes into his whole character throughout the movie, that he is known for making stuff up and lying.
He's the boy who cried wolf.
He's the boy who cried wolf. And so no one ever believes Chunk throughout the whole movie. Even the cops, when he calls the cops later in the movie, they're like, what do you want? Like, is this is this really you?
Yep.
And they're like, yeah, this is what's happening. They don't believe him. Right. So the whole movie is Chunk is not believed until the end when he's like, I told you guys I was right. I told you from the beginning, that whole thing. And even the friends know he doesn't tell the truth.
Yeah, they know he's full of crap.
Yeah.
Again, I think that is where these characters really are sold to us. They're such simple characters. Chunk is the boy who cried wolf. Mikey is the kid yearning for adventure. Data's just the little nerd kid with all the gadgets. And
Mouth is the best friend who is like the one who, why is he in the group?
Yes.
He's too cool to be in the group, but there's always that one kid who he loves his friends, but he's the cool one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They
fit together.
Out.
They're like glue.
Yeah. They make so much sense. And that was probably one of my favorite aspects of this movie. It's just the way that these characters develop, the story that they have together. And I mean, it smells of Spielberg and Columbus.
Yeah.
Entirely.
You can tell.
Those two are amazing working with with kids as actors.
And Spielberg in general, like, is so good at adventure type films.
Mm-hmm.
His role in producing the film and obviously writing the script, he was, hot off Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
And, Data
he's short round.
Short round. So he's like, how do I make Indiana Jones accessible for the kids of this generation?
Mm-hmm.
And then making it a film that can last years and years.
Yeah.
And they definitely delivered in that aspect of just kids being kids and kids watching this movie. It's one of those, I want to go on an adventure as soon as it's done. Like, you feel like you're part of the friend group.
Exactly. And it's such a simple premise. Mikey's getting kicked out of his house. They got to find the treasure from the map in his dad's attic.
That whole area is getting kicked out, right? All the houses are getting.
That's right. They're getting,
because they're trying to build something bigger.
Yeah. And now they got to go on One-Eyed Willie. That I love when they find him and Mikey's just talking to a skeleton. I'm like, this is such a surreal moment. I would, like, any normal kid would be terrified.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to serve the plot of this movie. He has to talk to One-Eyed Willie.
I mean, at this point in their adventure, they've gone through so much that what is this skeleton to them?
That's true. They've seen booby traps. They've almost drowned.
Booby traps. That's what I said. Booby traps.
They've almost been killed by murderers.
Yeah.
Nothing should faze them. You're absolutely right.
The two actors in the Fratelli group, mm-hmm. You have the mom who's in charge of these two guys. Those two guys never acted before.
Really?
This is their first movie, and they actually did a great job.
They did. They were like goofy. They were goofy heels in the whole movie.
And they were always button heads, so they were like a distraction. They were like the two characters in Pirates of the Caribbean, the two guards of the ship, always yelling at each other, and then Jack would just disappear with whatever he wanted.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
But I don't know if you know this, but this movie was made for $19 million.
What?
That was it.
How?
And it made $125 million.
Oh, good for them.
Yeah.
How did that even happen?
Because they're just kid actors.
But the sets.
I know, but back then you built everything. There was no special effects.
Yeah.
Right? Everything was like a miniaturized set. You had the house.
True.
You had just driving. You had the kids biking down a street. Like, that doesn't cost money.
I guess in like the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah. And then you get to the other shack. I'm sure that's just a shack they found on the side of the road.
Yeah.
And the only part I think was like the set is the underground.
The grotto with the pirate ship.
Yeah. The pirate ship. The kids, they never saw the pirate ship.
Are you serious?
They saw it. Like, when the director was making the film, he never wanted the kids to see the pirate ship until
they got there.
They got there. So the shot in the movie where they first see the pirate ship is their actual reaction to seeing a real pirate ship.
That made that so much better.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. That also plays into, I think, the magic that the director and the producers had for this movie. They know how to get those genuine reactions out of kids. It's like, go do it. Go. Here's the idea. Go have fun with that scene. Or we're not going to show you the big reveal until the cameras are rolling. That is so good. That's so good. And
we've talked about this before with practical versus special effects and CGI.
Mm-hmm.
Kid actors, it works so much better when it's practical. And they can live in the moment, the housework, the underground of the Fratelli's lair, the pirate ship. If they can physically be somewhere, the acting level can just be natural rather than forcing the lines. Exactly.
Yeah, and everything did feel as real as I think it could with child actors. Like we said before, the dialogue is very kid friendly. It didn't make them say any weird, goofy lines. And I expected all of those lines to come from those particular kids.
Right.
Was this Sean Astin's first role?
I'm not too sure about that.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure. I didn't look that up.
The only thing I know him from is Lord of the Rings as Sam Gamgee and Stranger Things. It's literally the only two things I've ever seen him in. And it was so cool to see him as a little dude just acting his butt off.
Because I don't think I've seen him. It's like, it's almost, you don't know it's him, because I saw Lord of the Rings obviously first.
Yeah.
And I never made the connection that that was him.
Right.
From the Goonies because he's like, what, 8 years older, 9 years older?
Yeah.
Like a full grown adult.
Exactly. And when I turned on the movie this time, I thought, holy crap, I know him.
Yeah.
And then Josh Brolin's in it. He looks...
Brand.
Yeah.
His mom's like, Brandon, clean. And he's like, Mom, it's just Brand.
Brand. Let's call Brandon that now.
Yeah, Brand. We'll call him Brand. Getting back to the reason they're going on this adventure. So Mikey ends up going to his attic because they tell him not to go up there. Everybody's moving. And he gets up there and finds the map. And then this, what would you call it? An artifact that had like holes in it so that he can have a clue of where it could go, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
So they end up getting on their bikes after they tie Brand up because they're not allowed to leave the house, and they wrap him up and they knock him over.
Yep.
And they hitch a ride on their bikes all the way down to the Pacific coast, like the side of wherever they were at.
They were on the coast somewhere.
Yeah. But this whole time when they get to the Fratelli's lair, Chuck notices the car.
Yes.
The van that they're driving, and he's guys, like, you won't believe this. He's like, you guys got to see this. It's the same. He's always breathing like heavy. And they finally get in there. They're walking around and they're like, this has to be the place, right? Because they have the map.
Right.
And Mouth has to translate it.
Oh,
somehow he knows Spanish.
It's in Spanish, yeah. Before we go any further, I love that he was totally messing with the cleaning lady.
The cleaning lady.
It's so bad.
Did you notice the cleaning lady was at the very beginning of the movie when the chase was happening?
Oh, was she really?
When they almost ran her over, and she's like, "Oh," in the middle of the road, that was her.
That was her. She was
like, it's
going
a nice
to work.
connection between characters, because when you see her in the house, you're like, "Why have I seen her before?" Because like 2 minutes ago, she almost got hit by a car.
I love those details. There's literally nobody else in the movie, but those characters come through, and they just make the world so much fuller. That's such a good detail.
Chester Copperpot,
yes,
was the adventurer.
Yes,
that they were following. What a name!
It is
Chester Copperpot. That's like a name of legend.
It is. It's in this legend.
Yeah, and when they have their meetup with the Fratellis, I would be terrified of this. The mom too. Oh yes. Absolutely terrifying. And they kind of sit them down and they're feeding them this water that looks like a pile of dirt. But I have to say, this is the part where it kind of slowed down for me, like in the midst of getting the process going. Mm-hmm. But my favorite character is obviously Chunk, for the sole reason how he delivers the scene in the freezer.
With the body? With
the dead body. So the whole time the Fratellis are wanted. Obviously, they escaped prison earlier, but there's a dead body that everybody's searching for. Yep. And it ends up in their ice cream freezer because Chunk smells ice cream. Yes. So they're in the basement, and he opens it up, and just the way he does, he's like, and he's trying to like push this dude off, and his physical comedy, and it ties into when they find the hole in the fireplace. Yes. And they tell Chunk to go call the police. Mm-hmm. And he's running on the highway and he sees the car, and it ends up being the Fratelli's car. Yeah. Like, and he's like, excuse me, sir. Yeah, he's like, my friends and the guys, and there's a dead guy, and the guy the Fratellis in the car with the lights plate, and then he turns the lights on. But another classic, I laughed out loud when they're putting Chunk in the trunk. And they're like stuffing him in, and he like raises his face. Ah. Yeah. And the guy's like, what's going on out there? He's like, I don't really think they have we don't have as much physical comedy anymore like that. Yeah. Well, everything is forced comedy through dialogue. And I think that it's way more creative because there's so many different things that we could do with the human body, and his facial expressions, he totally nailed it. Mm-hmm. He's so believable. When he's crying too, and he's trying to eat the ice cream. Yeah, they're like torturing him, and he's eating the ice cream and crying because they were trying to blend his hand, right? Yeah. He's like, no. But him and Data are my two favorite characters.
Yeah.
Data by far. Short Round, Kihei Kwan brings such joy, even as an adult. Like when he's acting and
Yep.
Everything Everywhere All at Once and
Yes.
Loki season 2, there's something about him when as soon as he's on screen and he speaks, you're just like drawn into it. He has such innocence to his Data character.
Yes.
And all his booby traps that he's got going in the jaws that help save his life from falling on this spear of death.
Just those teeth on a spring. It's so
And then he
good.
had the oil squirters of the shoe.
Yes. Man. Yeah, I feel like he's a special kind of actor. We don't see very many of his kind ever. And I'm so glad that he had an opportunity to perform again with Everything Everywhere All at Once. Because like that performance to me was just unbelievable. And then once I heard more about him, I realized that he was Short Round. I thought, oh, that.
Well, he looks exactly the same.
He does. He really does.
But it's crazy how he was typecasted and then cut off from Hollywood for 30 years.
Yeah.
Like no one wanted to hire him at all. And I just don't understand. And he was in one of those actors on roundtables.
Oh, yeah.
Last year when he won the Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just talking about like having to give up on his dream. And that at one point he thought he should just try one more time because he got a call for an audition to do this movie. And he said, this is my last chance. He was ready to just give up on life. And then he got the role. And now his whole life has changed because now everybody wants him in.
Yep.
Marvel's trying to rain on the coattails.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, why don't you cast him because he's good, not just because you want somebody popular in your shows?
Yeah. Don't just have a name for namesake.
Yeah.
And I think now people and like viewers and people who are making movies are picking up on that again. We're at a point where I think things are so saturated with the name and the hype that nobody cares. What we want now is something true to everybody involved's vision of it. And I think we pick up on that a lot. We definitely vibe with it much more than I think we did probably in the past. Even Godzilla -1, we thought, that's a love letter to old movies, Godzilla in general, Everything Everywhere all at Once. We see his passion in the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
I will say the movie wasn't for me.
That's fair. But you felt his performance.
There was parts of the movie that were awesome, but there were parts that went so sideways. I don't know what to think of this.
Yeah.
Like it was good, but then I was just thinking, I don't understand why this is here. Like all the nonsense and the rock scenes.
Yep.
And then the fingers. It was just, I don't watch a lot of anime. So seeing this kind of media, it's just mind blowing to me. And it's just so strange. So I don't know if I digested it
the same.
And like,
way.
I'm not going to watch it again. It's one of those and like you'll watch it once and be like, I experienced that. It's kind of like Poor Things with Emma Stone. Like you watch it once and that's about all you need.
I still need to watch that one.
Yeah.
But I think the genuine feel of this movie, especially with Data and Chunk, really, really sold it for me. That's why I could watch this movie again for sure.
Yeah.
Now that I have my expectations totally leveled and measured, I'm like, oh yeah, this is a movie from the 80s and it's full of kids. Dialogue be darned.
I would like to say I would be any of the other characters, but I think at that point as a kid, I would have to be Mikey.
He's the character I think everybody wants to put themselves into, right?
But not just because of that, just because I was the one with the asthma in the group. That blue inhaler was always saving my life.
Yep. I forgot about that.
Yeah. But Mikey definitely is the one with the inspiration to the group.
Yes.
Everyone just wants to hang out and do things, or Mikey's the one that they'll follow to anything.
He's got the goal. He's got the heart to do it, to see it through. And he's going to like encourage everybody to get there and make it through as well.
Mm-hmm. I did like the little storyline with Brandon, his girlfriend, and then Mikey getting,
getting the smooch in the dark.
The smooch in the dark.
I love it.
But I think on top of Mikey getting, because I feel like he is he's an outcast, so he's never going to be in that situation, like getting that moment with her.
Right.
It's not something that he thinks about, or Brand is the one you would look at and say, yeah, you're the one who gets the girls.
Right.
And Mikey's the dweeb little brother.
Yeah.
Who just happens to find luck in situations.
Yeah, he's definitely the most relatable character. And I think that's important for movies. People who want to write movies or write for movies, watch this movie. Because the main character is the simplest one in terms of their relatability, I think. And then everybody else, we can relate to components of them, right? Like we want to be the crafty one like Data, or we want to be the cool one like Mouth, or we want to be the goofy one like Chunk. We can all have those moments, but I think the level one is always going to be the main character, and everybody else is going to just feed off of that or build the confidence of that main character.
Because he was really the one to say, no, guys, we're this close. We can't just give up now. Like One-Eyed Willie is waiting for us. Like we're the ones who've gotten this. No ones have gotten this far before.
Yeah. Well, because what's his name? Copperpot. Chester Copperpot.
Charles.
Chester Copperpot.
Oswald Copperpot. Batman.
Chester Copperpot. They saw him as soon as they got down into the caves, right? Or a little thereafter. So that was as far as anybody else ever got. That guy died.
Which is so funny because it wasn't that far.
It wasn't very far.
Yeah. But they lucked out with missing all the booby traps.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So yeah, that's the farthest they'd ever gotten. They can't give up at that point. It's either go or, go. There's no option to turn back.
There was a moment at the beginning of the movie when we get introduced to all the friends, and it's the most real thing I've ever seen, even in this movie. When the kids were outside and they were talking to the two Goombas, trying to asking for their parents, and then they're like, "Oh, he's not here." Because when Data shows up, he runs through the screen door, and it breaks. So when the kids leave that scene, they just walk through the door. They don't open it.
Right.
Yeah. I'm like, of course. Who's going to open the door? I think the last person opened the door. I think it was Mikey who opened it. So too. But the rest of the kids just walk through the door because
it's open.
It's open.
Yeah.
Why bother opening the door when the screen door has just been busted through?
The other part that I really liked, and I actually laughed at it, was when Chunk shows up and has Mikey open the door, and he has to do the truffle shuffle. But all it is just opening the gate. Mikey could have walked outside, flipped the latch, but no, we have to do this elaborate thing, pushing something down, and a ton of other things happen to open the gate. I just thought, yes, like it just. I think
they did that to set up what kind of movie this was.
Yeah,
like these kids are mischiefs, they're creatives, their imagination is out of this world.
Yes,
they're not lazy because like.
They had to build.
Why would you build that if you were, if you
were lazy? Exactly.
Yeah, they're just. But as that was happening, I was like, why can't Chunk just grab the latch? Because you know how when we go like to our friend's house when we were young, we just reach over top and grab the ledge.
Yeah.
But then I was looking at it, the latch was like in the middle of the door, so I don't think Chunk could have reached it.
That's right. It would have been.
I think, yeah.
It even still speaks to the idea of even if the latch was further over, they still would have made that. Because that's the kids that they are. They're like, I'm not going to open it from outside. That's rude. Also, this cool machine here.
Yeah. What's the password?
Exactly.
And I feel like he also did because that's their tradition.
Yes.
Like if you go to their front door, you have to ring the bell, and this whole thing has to happen for you to even enter. It's like a whole game.
Yep. Well, that would be even like if I went to your house, there were two ways of me getting in. If your dad was in the garage, I'm going through the garage.
Yeah.
And I'd see him, I'd wave, I'd be like, oh, what are you working on? And it's like, oh, another like Christmas decoration. Cool.
Yeah.
Or if the doors were all shut, I'd go to the door, I'd push the doorbell, I'd do the little dance with the song, and then you'd show up at the door.
Or you still, if it was just the screen door before the main door, because we got a new door.
Yes.
But you wouldn't, I don't think you would ring the doorbell. Well, you did most of the time, but people would usually just knock because it's so loud on a screen door.
Yes. No, that doorbell had to be rung for me. The day you got a new doorbell, I thought it better be good.
It's not.
It wasn't as good.
It's not, because sometimes it wasn't even plugged in.
Yeah. And then I'd push it and I thought, oh, maybe I'm like waking people up. But no, it just wasn't working.
At that point, you just you stand there for like 3 minutes and then you text me and you're like, I'm here. I'm boring as that. I'm here. It's like, okay, I'll come to the door.
Oh, I miss those days. I miss the days of
because we didn't live far from each other. Everybody was 5 minutes away.
Bike there. We could bike to each other's house.
Bike there in like 8 minutes.
Yep. Oh, good times. 1985. Just kidding.
No, that was 99, 2000. Like, I think we were biking around 2003. Like, we were old enough where we were always on the
10 and like 17, 18. We were always biking. Even after,
we were still biking in like age 24.
Exactly. Yeah. Like we had our cars and now we got a bike.
Yeah, we got a bike. Let's do the longest bike trail possible. It's not a hangout unless you're biking at least 5K.
It doesn't count. It really doesn't count.
And then you end up at McDonald's.
Exactly. We're sitting out in the parking lot.
When you got to McDonald's and you were in your vest, you went through the drive-through on foot.
Yep. That's when it first opened.
Yeah.
That was such a good day.
The guy's like, oh, okay, I guess just come to the next window.
I don't think we can do that anymore.
Yeah.
I knew I had one opportunity to do that in my life, and I took it. I'm so glad I did.
But then again, it's just us being like a friend group, right? That's what we did. We just did whatever we thought of that day.
Exactly.
Which is exactly what they're doing in this movie.
Yes. Yeah. It wasn't a pre-planned anything. It was, guys, this is the last shot we have. We got to save the neighborhood. Let's see if this works.
And it's not like the bad guy is like trying to get them. Like, it wasn't like in the plot, it's like, oh, they just get them. Like all the situations they got out of were believable situations for the friend group.
Yes.
Like Data being the one to help them get out of anything, or like when the next level of test in the underground was somebody who had that skill set.
The piano.
Yeah.
It's a classic utilizing the strengths of the people in the group.
Mm-hmm. Who's your favorite character?
Oh man, honestly, I would go with Mikey.
Yeah,
just because of that ability to relate to him as the technically the underdog of the group. He's the asthmatic, but the one that had the true heart, right? Mm-hmm. You know, you wanna always strive for that. Mm-hmm. That's the person you want to be. You want to be the motivational one, the one that helps your friends through everything.
You believe in him.
Yeah, he's the most believable, I think, and that's why you got it.
I think we should talk about Sloth.
Yes. Yes.
Because if for anyone coming into this movie and thinking like, oh, it's just like a kid adventure, that is the most obscure part of this movie, I feel.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, you guys. So Sloth is the brother.
The other Fratelli brother.
The other Fratelli brother. But he's like a Frankenstein monster who lives underground.
Yes. He has some probably like facial deformity, some intellectual, shortcomings, and the mom and the two brothers are keeping him hidden from the world.
Chained up.
Yeah, he's literally a monster to them that can't be shown to the world.
Because our first sign of him is like the monster roar when Mikey goes to the washroom, right? She says, first door on the left, don't go down the hallway.
Don't go further, yeah.
But he's like yelling in the end of the hallway. So we're thinking, okay, is this a bigger thing than just treasure? Like,
right.
where are we going with this movie? Like, is it going to take a massive turn? And then Chunk ends up befriending him,
Of course.
two sides of the same coin.
Yep.
And when they feed each other chocolate. But it's so cool that his inspiration is what he watches on the TV. So like he's watching this pirate flick, and the hero, he at the end when they reach the pirate ship, Slaw shows up to save the kids.
Yeah.
And he comes down on the mast with a knife, and he's sliding down the drape, just like he sees his hero do in his movie he watches all the time on loop.
Yep. I think, was that Treasure Island? I think
it might have been. That would have made sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And he rips off the top shirt, and he's got his Superman shirt on.
Yeah.
And I think,
how much money do you think it cost to get that tune?
Oh, back then, it's a lot.
Was Goonies the same studio that made Superman?
Oh, I don't know.
Because if that's the case, then I don't think it would have cost a lot, because they own the track.
Most likely. That would be very smart.
Because Superman doesn't own that theme. Like,
right,
that theme was created for the movie. So whoever made Superman,
was it Universal?
Could be.
Yeah, I want to say it's Universal because of the globe, but that might just be Superman. I don't know.
Let's see. I got it on 4K. Warner Brothers. That makes sense. Was Goonies made by Warner Brothers? Oh yeah, it was WB.
There you go. Yeah, so Warner owns the rights to the Superman theme song.
Yeah.
So yeah, it probably didn't cost them a dime.
Probably not.
Maybe royalties to the composer.
Yeah,
that's about it.
The music in this as well was amazing.
It's great.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's adventurous. It's lighthearted.
Yeah.
It's everything like Pirates of the Caribbean had, that kind of vibe.
Yes.
But it was more kid-fied.
Kid and real world focused.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I'm on this kick right now of like pirates, adventure, all of that kind of stuff. Last year, Brie and I went to New Orleans around this time, beginning of May. And that just got me into that mood of jazz and adventure and those mysteries. And this is the time for me to watch this movie. It was such good timing because I really gravitated towards it. I was like, oh, this is fun. And for me, the music, I didn't notice it at first. And I think that's a sign of a good score.
You mentioned that before.
Yeah.
That if you don't notice the music right away, it really blends in and immerses you into the film.
Yep. Even when I saw Dune 2, like that score is in your face and in your ear holes, but it's not out of context. It's not out of the ordinary. And it just makes so much sense. And this movie did such a good job with that. I listened to the soundtrack a little bit after, and I thought, oh yeah, I remember that scene. And it all fits really nicely.
It's just a well-made movie.
It is. It really is.
I wanna ask you, how fun do you think it would have been to do the slide?
Oh. So
for everyone who hasn't seen it, when they reach a certain point in the cave to get to the treasure, they fall down. They go down this hole because they get to the part where there's a piano set piece where they have to play the piano in order to lower this drawbridge. So the right keys play the piano, and if you miss, the floor falls out underneath you,
and they have like
which is absolutely insane.
Oh yeah, a couple sections in your toast.
Yeah. So they get through this part, and they all go down this little pipe, but it's this massive water slide, and it looks like the most fun water slide you'll ever see. And for these kids, I mean, other than the fact that they're in regular clothes, so it might not have been comfortable.
Yeah.
That had to have been the most fun day on set.
Oh, absolutely. They probably did that in one day, and they were like, that's going to be something they remember forever.
Yeah, for sure. Because then right after that, they get to see the pirate ship.
Yeah. And that, you said, was the big reveal. They didn't know about it before. So that,
and
that would have been...
being on the set, it's like the Pirates of the Caribbean. The immersion for these actors to be able to be on this pirate ship and see the treasure and the skeletons. And as kids, you just lose your mind, right? It would be real to you. So you would probably mess up all the lines because you would be like, oh my God.
You're just
like,
so
I feel like at one point in the movie, they were like running around looking at things, like,
inside the ship, they were looking at all the treasure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they would probably just go find some cool stuff.
Just run around and find stuff.
Yeah, that slide would have been amazing. And it's so cool that they put that in the movie, because even for the audience, a younger audience, you think, oh, like I've been on a slide.
Yeah.
And then now when you go back to, the playground or whatever, you're going to think about that. You're going to think, oh, that slide from the Goonies. That's what we're going to do. And we're going to find the pirate ship. It's mirroring the real world enough that kids can relate to it. Oh man, this movie's so much better once you actually think about it. Because at first I'm watching this movie and I thought, this movie's effing weird. And then I'm watching it and I'm like, oh, this is fun. I like this. And now that we're talking about it, I think, dang, this is such a well thought out movie.
It's a simple. It's complex in its simplicity to deliver an adventure story.
Yeah,
just a group of misfits. It's like the Lost Boys from Peter Pan.
Yeah,
just a bunch of kids living in their imagination, but now it's real.
I honestly thought that the Goonies was about the Lost Boys.
Yeah.
Like the past, I'd say 10 years since I haven't seen it, I thought, oh yeah, it's about like the Lost Boys and they're in Neverland and they're playing around. No, it's not. But it mirrors, it mimics that, right?
What do you mean? You never, from all the Goonies, you never got what the movie was about for me just yelling that?
I literally thought it was some kind of riff on the Lost Boys.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure at one point they might have been inspired by the kids.
Yeah.
Them always, roughing stuff up and
using their imagination.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
That was 100% because Spielberg also did Hook.
Exactly.
Fun fact, everybody. We recorded a podcast a year ago. It would have been one of the first podcasts on 2 Hours on a Sunday. But the whole, whatever program we're using at the time, crashed our entire software. All our files got corrupted and we never went back to it. And it's on our docket for this season. So it's so cool that we're doing Pirates of the Caribbean, the Goonies, Hook, everything about adventure.
Yes.
And pirates and
this to me
everything had a pirate in it.
This to me is like our adventure season.
Yeah.
It's so I loved what we did last season. We had a lot of cool movies, but this one I'm really amped to watch like all of the movies coming up. Well, Atlantis, that's kind of piratey. It's like space Atlantis pirates. Yeah.
Yeah. They're searching for treasure.
Exactly. Like those movies.
He has a map at the beginning.
Exactly. Those movies always get me.
Yeah.
Bringing it back to the Goonies, I'm gonna be honest again. I honestly was not sure how I felt when I first started watching the movie, but it really grew on me quickly. And now that we had a chance to talk about it, we got to pick apart the characters a little bit, figure out their motives, and talk about what we both liked about it. I really have a better appreciation of it now. And it's not just some, one-off kind of thing. I think there's a lot of magic that happened that came together to bring this movie to life. I think that it helped me to see the adventure in a lot of other simple things in life now that I think we might lose as we get older. Like there's adventure in small mundane things that we see day to day. So I truthfully really loved this movie.
Because I'm not gonna. I want in the bonus features. I'm not gonna say what the director said because it's very. It struck me like I was like, well, did you just say that?
Yeah.
When he's talking about working with the kids and he'd really rather quit life than than work with these kids as a joke in the 1980s.
Yeah.
They could say whatever they wanted, but him talking about that if the kids weren't on screen, it didn't feel. Like him working with the kids changed his outlook on how he directs movies because this was like his first movie directing a bunch of kids like this. So I feel like even him making the movie and seeing how full of life and adventure and spontaneity these kids have.
Yeah.
And like they deliver so well in this movie. And I think, You can feel that as you're watching it. I've seen it so many times. So I think that's also a reason why I kind of zoned out, because I know exactly what's happening every time. I've seen it like 10 times.
Of course.
So I'm not zoning out because I was bored. It's just, okay, I'll just hop back in. I can play it in my mind. I'll just hop back in when I know they're getting to the stuff I want to see.
Yes.
AKA Chunk in the freezer, AKA Chunk getting put inside of the back of a truck, AKA them getting down under the Fratelli's lair.
Exactly.
All the good stuff.
Yes.
But if you guys have seen the Goonies, comment below. Let us know how you feel about the Goonies. If you agree that it's a very kid-friendly version of Indiana Jones, that kind of vibe, the very Spielberg-esque adventure, Hook, Peter Pan kind of vibe. If that was your thing growing up, let us know. Let us know if this is one of your favorites. Who's your favorite character?
Yeah.
If you felt the same way we do after all these years. I know Nick only seen it this time.
Probably
He's only heard
twice.
about it in the past.
Yeah.
But this was a fun watch. We got a lot of good movies coming up.
Yeah.
This was definitely one of them on our list that we've done in this season. And it's been a good time.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to listen to this episode. This has been 2 Hours on a Sunday. I'm Nick.
And I'm Brian, and we'll catch you guys later.